morning, students. Today we are going to revise the chapter 5 of our NCERT book, and that is Morphology of the Flowering Plants. What we are going to revise in this chapter about the structure and the function of root, stem, leaves, and flower. And we will also study about the semi-technical description of three botanical families here, that is family Fabaceae, family Solanaceae, and family Liliaceae. So what is given in the introduction, students? Morphology means external appearance of a living organism. So here in this chapter, we are going to study about the morphology or the external features that are found in a flowering plant or in angiosperms. As we all know, students, today is the age of angiosperms, and when an angiospermic plant is visible to us, then it has characteristic roots, stem, so many branches over the stem, leaves are there, and these leaves are of special type, and at a particular stage of the life cycle of an angiosperm, the flower appears, and these flowers are the main reproductive organs of the angiosperms, and this tells us that this is the phase of reproduction of the angiosperms, or you can say it is the initiation of the reproductive phase in angiosperms when a flower appears. Besides this, I want to tell you that these angiosperms, they are adapted to wide range of habitats. So what are the modifications found in their characteristic organs such as roots, stems, and leaves, by virtue of which they are adapted for wide range of habitats that I will also discuss here. So students, my slide is visible to you. First of all, I want to define morphology. What is morphology? Morphology is the branch of biology which deals with the study of external parts of a plant, such as a root, stem, leaves, flowers, and fruits. Okay, student, now I am going to discuss about the roots. So we have two types of plants, monocot plants and dicot plants. As we know that the plants are known as monocots because there is a single coat present in the seed of a monocot plant. Whereas in dicot plants, instead of one cotyledon, here two cotyledons are present. That's why it is known as a dicot plant. So here I am going to discuss the roots in case of dicot plants. So in a dicot plant, the root, it originates directly from the radicle. So the direct elongation of the radicle is actually produce the roots. And first the primary roots, they originate from the radicle, and later on this primary root, it bears so many lateral branches, and they form the secondary roots, then tertiary roots, and all of these secondary roots and tertiary roots, they arise from the primary roots as lateral branches. So here in case of dicot plants, we have two types of root system. Number one, taproot system, and number two, fibrous root system. So students, always remember taproot system is the characteristic feature of a dicot plant, which is generally found in terrestrial habitat, and fibrous root system is the characteristic feature of the monocot plants, in which generally the grasses or grass-like plants come, or the modified grasses you can say. For example, wheat, rice, these are the examples of modified grasses. Okay, students, the taproot system is visible to you. As I have already told you, in this system, there is a main root, and that main root, it arises from the radicle, and this root is known as the primary root. And from this primary root, as it is visible to you in the diagram, so many other roots, they arises as lateral branches, and the roots which first arise from the primary roots, they are known as the secondary roots, and later from the secondary roots, other lateral branches arises, and they form the tertiary roots. So here, taproot system, always a main root, that is primary root, is visible, and other roots, whether it is a secondary or tertiary, they arise from the primary roots. So this type of root system is generally found in case of dicot plants. For example, peepal tree, we have seen in this peepal tree, sometimes the roots, they comes out from the surface of the soil, So always one main root, that is primary root, is visible to us, and other roots which may be secondary or tertiary, that are generally found arising from the base of these primary roots as lateral branches. Okay, student, next is the fibrous root system. This fibrous root system is the characteristic feature of the monopod plant. Here, what is the special thing here? No primary root is generally visible because the primary root is present, but this primary root is short-lived. And later this root is replaced by large number of roots, and this bunch of roots, they actually arises from the base of the stem as a network. So here I want to give the example of the modified grasses such as wheat plant, maize plant, or you can say a rice plant. These are the examples of fibrous root system. Okay, student, there are third type of roots which are known as the adventitious roots. So what are these adventitious roots? Generally we know the roots, they arise from the radicle. But sometimes instead of radicle, the roots, they arise from some other part of the plant other than the radicle. So such type of roots are known as the adventitious roots. So here I have written the roots which arise from other parts of the plant other than the radicle are known as adventitious roots. So here two pictures are visible to us. One is of the maize plant and other is of the banyan tree. So these are the examples of adventitious roots. They have special name. I will discuss their special names later. Okay, students, now I want to tell you about the functions of the roots. So roots are performing a variety of functions in the plant body. As we know, the first main function of the root is the absorption of water and minerals from the soil. And these roots, they actually are the special organs which helps in the absorption of not only water but minerals from the soil too for the nourishment of the plant. Secondly, these roots, they provide proper anchorage from the plant parts. And third function is sometimes these roots, they also store the reserve food material. For example, we have a radish, and here fusiform roots are present, and these roots, they store food material. In case of a turnip, we have globular roots, and in case of carrot, we have napiform type of roots. So all of these roots here not only absorbing water and minerals, but instead of them, they are modified and they are performing the function of food storage here. And the last function of roots are, sometimes the roots, they are involved in the synthesis of phytohormones, that is plant growth regulators. And these plant growth regulators, they are controlling different type of functions regarding the growth of the plants. Okay, student, now I want to tell you about the reasons of the roots. The first reason that is present at the root is actually the root cap. So root is covered at its apex by a thimble-like structure, and this thimble-like structure is actually known as the root cap. So here in the diagram, the root cap is visible to you. So this root cap, it protects the tender root, and it also allows the roots to move through the soil without any problem. The root can easily pass through the cracks of the soil with the help of this root cap. So next to the root cap is present the region of meristematic activity, as the name itself indicates. So here in this region, special type of meristematic cells are present, and all of these meristematic cells, they divide rapidly. They are the live cells. They have thin walls and with dense cytoplasm, or you can say protoplasm is present. All of these cells, they divide again and again, and thus they play an important role in the growth of the root. So next to the reason of meristematic activity, the next reason is reason of elongation. As the name itself indicates, this particular reason contains special type of cells in which some of the cells, they are showing the meristematic activities, but there are certain cells, they are not now performing the meristematic activities. Instead of them, these cells, they get differentiated, and here cylindrical type of cells are present. So there both type of cells are present, meristematic as well as some of the cells, they becomes differentiated too. So these cells, they helps in rapid elongation of the roots, and enlargement of the root is also done by these cells which are present in the region of elongation. So main function of this region of elongation and their cells is to increase the length of the root. The next reason is region of maturation. As the name itself indicates, all the cells that are found in this region of maturation, they generally becomes differentiated cells and they becomes mature cells. They are no more performing the function of meristematic activities now, and all of these cells, they becomes differentiated and they are performing their characteristic function. And we know that here the characteristic function of the root is actually the transport of water and minerals from the soil. So on the region of maturation, as it is visible to you in the diagram, so many hair-like structures they arise. And these hair-like structures are actually known as the root hairs. So these root hairs, they increases the efficiency of process of absorption of water and minerals from the soil. So there are so many root hairs that are visible to you. And the root hairs, they absorb water and minerals as well as they increase the efficiency of absorption by the roots. So these are all about the reasons of roots. Okay, students, as it is very much known to us that roots, they are generally involved in the process of transport of water and minerals. But beside this, sometimes according to the need of the environment or their particular habitat, the roots in the plants, they get modified, and instead of performing their main function, sometimes they are performing some characteristic function that is according to the need of the plant or the habitat in which that particular plant grows. So first of all, I am going to tell you about the storage roots. So these storage roots actually store the food material. What are the storage roots, that I will tell you later on. And then we have prop roots. And these prop roots, they are generally having the function for providing support. So this type of roots, it are generally found in the banyan tree. Stilt roots, they are generally found in maize and sugarcane. And this type of roots are also supporting roots and they're coming out from the lower nodes of this stem. So generally these type of roots are visible in case of maize. And the four type of roots are very special. They are known as nematophores. And these nematophores are generally found in those plants which grow in marshy areas such as rhizophora. So here in swampy areas, so many roots that comes out from the surface of the ground and they grows upward in a vertically fashion. And in this way, these roots, they help to get more and more oxygen for respiration of the plant. So this type of roots, they are found in rhizophora. It is a plant which generally grows in swampy areas. Okay, student, I am going to discuss one by one the function of each type of roots. So here we have storage root first. So here the picture is visible to you. First is the picture of turnip. Here in turnip, globular roots are present and these globular roots, they store the food material. And in case of carrot, the napiform type of storage roots are present. These napiform roots, they are broader at their anterior end, but at their posterior end, they are very much narrow. So these type of roots are found in carrot. And in case of sweet potato, or you can say in case of a radish. So fusiform roots are there. So fusiform roots also have a broad anterior end, but their posterior ends are somewhat tapering in it. Okay, students. The next type of roots are the prop roots. As I have already told you, these prop roots, they have a special function. They provide support to the plant. As we know that the crown of the banyan tree is very much huge. So the stem is not enough to hold the crown. So in this case, sometimes special type of roots, they arise from some other part of the plant other than radicle. And these supporting roots, or you can say hanging roots, which generally appears like the branches of the banyan tree. These are actually the prop roots, and these prop roots, they act as additional stems and they provide support to the plant. And in this way, the bulky crown of the tree is easily held by these stem as well as these prop roots. Okay, students, the next picture is visible to you. And here I am giving the example of sugarcane and maize. So both in sugarcane as well as in maize, there are special type of roots present which are known as the stilt root. So these stilt roots are also example of supporting roots and they arise from the lower nodes of the stem, and these roots, they help to provide additional support to the plants. So this type of roots are present in sugarcane and okay, next type of roots are known as the nematophore roots. As I have already told you, these are found in those plants which are generally growing in the swampy areas or moisture-rich habitats. So here this is the picture of the Rhizophora plant. So here so many roots, they comes out from the surface of the ground and they grow in a vertical fashion, and in this way these roots, they help the plant to get more and more oxygen for the respiration. So these have special names known as nematophores. Okay, student, we are going to start the next topic. And after root, we are going to discuss here about the stem. So what is stem actually? When a stem is visible to you, then always a thing that comes in your mind, that stem is always the ascending part of the plant. And stem is that part which always bear branches, leaves, flowers, and fruits. So from where this stem originates, so as radicle, it gives birth to roots later on. Similarly, there is another organ that is present in the embryo, and that is known as plumule. And from the plumule of the germinating seed, the stem they generally develop. So what is the identifying feature of the stem? So always a stem, it bears nodes and internodes. So here, the reason of the stem, where the leaves are born, they are generally known as the nodes, and the regions or the portions that are between the two characteristic nodes, it is known as internode. Sometimes the stem, it bears buds at their axils, and these buds, if they are present at the axial position, then they are known as axillary buds. But if they are present at the terminal position, then they are known as the terminal buds. Next is the stem when it is young stage, but when it is in its young stage, it is always green. But when this stem, after it gets older, then the color of the stem, it changes and it becomes dark and woody in appearance. Okay, student, what is the function of stem? We know very well. The function of the stem is spreading out so many branches, and later these branches, they bear leaves, flowers, and fruits. All right. So next is it also conduct water and minerals because they have special type of water conducting as well as food conducting tissues in them, and these are the xylem and phloem respectively. As the stem, sometimes they are also performing the function of photosynthesis, and for this purpose the stem, it becomes green. They store chlorophyll pigment and involved in the process of photosynthesis. And the stem sometimes get modified and perform some additional functions such as storage of food. It also provides support and sometimes it acts as a protecting organ for the plant. The stem is also involved in the process of vegetative propagation. As the term is very much clear to us, vegetative propagation is the process in which the new plant, it originates with the help of vegetative propagules of the plants. It may be root, stem, or leaves, whatever. Okay, students, here also the stem, it gets modified. So instead of performing its main function, sometimes the stem, it also perform additional functions. So here underground stems, they are present in case of potato. In case of potato, these stems are known as a tuber. And in case of ginger, these underground stem, which store food, they are known as rhizomes. And similarly, in case of Jamaican also, all of the stems, they are modified to store food. Sometimes the stem, they also act as an organs of pollination. When the plant is growing in such a habitat where the conditions are not favorable, at that time, the plant, it acts as a pollinating organ to protect the particular tree, or you can say stem. To particular tree, or you can say plant, so here the stem acts as a pollinating organ. So sometimes the tendrils, they arise from the stem. As we all know, the function of the tendrils is to climb. So here these stem tendrils, they are found in case of gourds. such as cucumber gourds, pumpkin, watermelon, and grapevines. So all of these, the stems get modified to form stem tendrils. And sometimes the axillary buds of the stem, they get modified into woody, straight pointed thorns. So here the stem is performing the function of protection. So such type of woody thorns are present in case of citrus fruits such as oranges, mosambi, and lemon, etc. In bougainvillea, the thorns are also present, and here the thorns, they protect the plant from different type of browsing animals. Okay, students, there are some more modification of the stem. So sometimes the plants, they are growing in arid regions. So here the stem, they modified into flattened and flexible cylindrical structures. For example, in case of Opuntia, in case of Euphorbia, so here the stem, they contain the green color pigment chlorophyll, and instead of doing its main function, it is also performing the function of photosynthesis. And sometimes underground stems of grasses and strawberry, they help the plant to spread to new niche. When older parts die, then new plants are formed. In case of Pistia and in case of Icon, a lateral branch with short internodes, and each node it bear a rosette of leaves, and then tuft of roots arises. In this way, the plants propagate. Both of these plants, they are the aquatic plants. And in case of mint and jasmine, as we know, a process of vegetative propagation which is known as layering, it is found in these two plants. Here in this process, a large branch, it arises from the base of the main axis, and after growing aerially for some time, it bends like an arc and then touch the ground. Then tuft of roots arises, and in this way, this plant again grow. This plant branch again grow in a vertical fashion, and again it get bends like a arc, and bunch of roots arising from that bending portion. So in this plant, propagation, vegetative propagation takes place by the process of layering. Okay, student, there are so many pictures visible to you which shows the modification of different type of stems. So here we have green stems that are found in mostly plants that are growing in arid regions. This specific type of plant stems which have pigments, green color pigment chlorophyll, they are known as phyllocalates, caladots, etc. Here thorns are visible to you. So here I have said that these thorns, they play the role of protection in case of plants. Some stem tendrils are also visible to you. So these stem tendrils, they are found in gourds of cucumber, pumpkin, watermelon, etc. So here in the second picture, stem tendrils are there, and these stem tendrils, they are performing the function of climbing. And here stems, they get modified into thorns, and these thorns, they protect the plant from browsing animals, and it also provides protection in many other ways. So here we have specialized type of stems that are found in case of ginger. Rhizomes are present. These modified stems are known as rhizomes. And in case of palm, in case of colocasia, palm is present. These are the special modification of the stem. And in case of onion, or you can say garlic, the modified stems, they are known as bulb. And in case of you can say potato, the modified stem are known as a tuber. So all of these modified stem here performing the function of storage of food. Okay, student, we are now going to study about the next morphological organ that is present in angiosperm, very, very important, and that is the leaf. So what is a leaf? So leaf is a lateral flat structure that generally born on the stem, you can say, or born on the branches. So where it develops at the nodes and bears a buds in its axis. So this as we know, in the nodal region of the stem or the branch, and a bud is present, which is known as axillary bud. So this axillary bud, it later develops into branch, and on the branch again one axillary bud develops, and this axillary bud, it later develops into the leaf. So these leaves, they originate from shoot apical meristem, and these apical meristems are the special type of meristematic tissues that are present at the apical region of the shoots. So all of these leaves, they are arranged in an acropetal order. So here I am using the term acropetal. Acropetal order means if there is a branch, then first of all the leaves, they start growing at the apex, and from the apex it proceed towards the base. This means the younger leaf, it is present at the base. So most important thing regarding leaves is sometimes these leaves, they act as where they act as also you can say the vegetatively propagated organs. They involved in the process of vegetative propagation. For example, in case of bryophyllum, the special type of leafy buds that are present at the margin of the leaves, they are the important source for vegetative propagation. So here the leaves, they are the vegetative organs of the plant which are performing the very important characteristic of plant, and that is photosynthesis. So leaves are the site for photosynthesis. That's why they are also known as the kitchens of the plant. Okay, students, we are going to study here about the different parts of the leaves. So a typical leaf, it consists of three main parts. Number one, leaf base. So what is a leaf base? The leaf, it is attached to the stem by the leaf base. And at this leaf base, two lateral small leaf-like structures are present. And these small leaf-like structures, they are known as the stipules. So next to the leaf base, we have petiole. What is petiole? The petiole, it helps to hold the leaf blade to light. Thin, flexible and long petioles, they allow the leaf blade to flutter in the wind, and this helps to cool down the temperature of the leaves. So in this way, these petiole, it helps the leaf to protect from the harmful effect of the sunlight, or you can say photoburning. And third is a very important part of the leaf, that is the lamina. It is also known as the leaf blade. So what is this lamina? This lamina is actually the green expanded part of the leaf. And there are so many identifying features present on this lamina, that this lamina contains many veins and veinlets. And the main vein that is present in the center of the lamina, it is known as midrib. And from this midrib, so many other veins and veinlets, they arise. So in case of a dorsiventral leaf, which is the characteristic feature of dicot, such type of leaves are present, which may be simple leaf or compound leaf, having the main vein which is known as midrib, and other lateral veins which arise from the midribs. So these veins, instead of transporting water and minerals, these veins, they also provide rigidity to the leaf blade or the lamina. Okay, students, see the diagram of the leaf. So here I have shown you one dorsiventral leaf, which is the characteristic of dicot plants. So here I have told you that in the axil of the stem, there is a bud arise, and this bud is known as axillary bud. And the lamina of the leaf, it is attached with the stalk-like structure with the stem, and this stalk-like structure, this is known as petiole. And this green expanded portion of the leaf is actually known as the leaf blade or the lamina, and it has so many veins and veinlets over it. Then there are so many nodes present on the stem. So main vein that is present in the lamina is known as the midrib, and so many other veins arises from this. So this is the tip of the leaf. So many veins are there in other picture. Axil, we have axillary bud. Then I have told you that there are small leafy structures found near the, you can say, stipules are the structures, and these stipules, they are generally found at the leaf base. So this is leaf blade. So green expanded leaf blade is there. Okay, student, we are going to study about venation. So what is venation? Venation is the arrangement of veins and veinlets in the lamina of the leaf, or you can say in the leaf blade. So here we have two types of venations. parallel venation and reticulate venation. So both type of venation is visible to you. In case of parallel venation, all the veins, they are arranged themselves in a parallel manner. Whereas in case of reticulate venation, there is a network of veins. There is one main vein or primary vein which is known as midrib, and so many other veins they arise from this midrib, and these are known as the lateral veins, and from these lateral veins some other veinlets arise. So parallel venation is the characteristic feature of monocot plant, whereas reticulate venation, where the veins they form network, is the characteristic feature of a dicot. Okay, students, see the enlarged view of the parallel venation. When the veins they run parallel to each other within the lamina, then this type of venation is known as parallel venation. As I have already told you that this type of venation is the characteristic feature of monocot plants. So here I have shown you the leaf of the banana. So in the leaf of banana as well as in the leaf of bamboo, the type of venation present is the parallel venation. Okay, next is reticulate venation. So what is reticulate venation? Then the veinlets or veins, they form a network within the lamina. Then such type of venation is known as reticulate. So reticulate venation is the characteristic feature of the dicot plants. So here I have shown you two leaves. One is the leaf of the rose plant or some decorative plant. Another is the leaf of the peepal tree. In the leaf of the peepal tree, the midrib is very much visible to you. And from the midrib, so many veins and further veinlets arises. So there is a network of veins within the lamina. So it is known as reticulate venation. So this is the identifying feature of the dicot. Okay, student, now we are going to study about the types of the leaves. So we have divided the leaves on the basis of their type into two broad categories. They may be simple leaf or they may be compound leaf. So first of all, simple leaves are visible to you. So what is a simple leaf? When the lamina of the leaf is entire and if the incisions they do not touch the midrib, then such type of leaf are known as simple leaf. So here lamina is visible to you. This is the entire lamina. Those small incisions are present at the margin of the leaves, but these incisions they do not touch the midrib. That's why this is the example of a simple leaf. Okay, students, types of leaves. We have second type of leaf, that is compound leaf. So what is a compound leaf? When the incisions of the lamina they reach up the midrib and breaking it into a number of leaflets, then this type of leaf is known as a compound. So here the incisions of the lamina is there, and all of these incisions they touch the midrib, and by touching the midrib, so many leaflets they changes into so many leaflets. So this is the example of the compound leaves. So compound leaves are generally visible in case of neem tree. Okay, student, we also have two more categories of compound leaves, and these are pinnate compound leaves or palmate compound leaves. So what is pinnate compound leaves? Pinnate compound leaf is generally visible in case of neem plant. So in this type of leaf, number of leaflets are present, but all of these leaflets they are arranged on a common rachis, and which represent the midrib of the leaf. This means so many leaflets they are present on the common rachis, which actually is the midrib. So this type of leaves are pinnate compound leaves. I will show you the picture later on. Next is palmate compound leaf. So palmate compound leaf, in case of palmate compound leaf, the leaflets they are attached at a common point. That is at the tip of the petioles, a bunch of leaflets they arise. And this type of leaves, palmate compound leaves, are generally found in case of cotton. So here the picture is visible to you. See, first is a case of pinnate compound leaf, and other is palmate compound leaves. So this is the leaves that are found in case of a neem tree. So here, portion of the midrib is there on which leaflets they generally arrange themselves, and that portion is generally known as the rachis. And here, what is the main thing? So here a bunch of leaflets they arise from the tip of the midrib, and this is the leaf that is the leaf of the cotton plant. So it is an example of palmate compound. Okay, student, we are going to study a very important topic now, and that is phyllotaxy. So what is phyllotaxy? Phyllotaxy is the pattern of arrangement of leaves on the stem or branches. So how these leaves they are arranged on the stem or on the branches, that is known as phyllotaxy. So there are three types of phyllotaxy. Number one is alternate phyllotaxy. Number two, opposite phyllotaxy, and number three is whorled phyllotaxy. So this is the picture or the diagram of all the three types of phyllotaxy. In alternate phyllotaxy, one leaf is at the lower position, then other leaf at the upper position. Then the third leaf is a little bit at the upper position from the previous one, and so on. And in case of opposite phyllotaxy, from the same point, on both the sides, one leaf they gets attached. And similarly on the next point, on both sides, that is on the left side and on the right side, both the leaves they arise from the common point, and in this way all the leaves are arranged. Whereas in case of a whorled phyllotaxy, all of these leaves they arranged themselves in a circular manner in the angle of 360 degrees. So this is an example of whorled phyllotaxy, and the example of whorled phyllotaxy is Alstonia plant, and that Alstonia plant is generally growing on gate number 2 of our school. Next is alternate phyllotaxy. So first of all, I am going to take here alternate phyllotaxy. So in alternate phyllotaxy, as I have already discussed, a single leaf arises at each node in an alternate manner. So see, this is the flower of the hibiscus, which is commonly known as a China rose. So one leaf is at the lower position, and there is another leaf which is a little bit upper than the previous one. And in this way, all of these leaves they arranged themselves at different points in an alternate manner. So example is hibiscus rosa silensis. Next is opposite phyllotaxy. So in case of opposite phyllotaxy, the pair of leaves they arise at each node. That means at each node on both sides, pair of leaves they arise and they lie opposite to each other. That means one leaf is in the left hand side, then other leaf is at the right hand side. So here I have shown the leaves of two type of plants. One is Calotropis. In Hindi it is known as Ak, and another is Guava. And this is the leaves of the Guava plant. Okay, student, the next type of phyllotaxy here is whorled phyllotaxy. The whorled phyllotaxy means if more than two leaves they arise at a node, and of all of these leaves they form a whorl. That means they arrange themselves in a circular fashion in the angle of 360 degrees. So such an arrangement of leaves is known as whorled arrangement. And here I have given the example of Alstonia plant. So here see, from this central point, so many leaves they arranged themselves at the angle of 360 degree or in a circular fashion. Okay, students, now I'm going to discuss about the modification of the leaves. So here the main function of the leaf, all of us know very well that these leaves are known as the kitchen of the plant. So their main function is photosynthesis. And they are green in color. They have chlorophyll pigment for the purpose of photosynthesis. But sometimes the leaves they also get modified and form variety of other additional functions. So here I'm going to tell you about that. So here sometimes the leaves they are converted into tendrils, and such type of leaf tendrils they are found in case of peas. And sometimes the leaves they also get modified and form spines, and these spines are generally visible to us in some desert plants such as cactus. So I have given you the example. Pea tendrils are generally known to us, and spines are found in case of cactus plant. We generally grow cactus in our pots for decoration purposes. Next are fleshy leaves. So fleshy leaves are generally found in case of onion and garlic. When we remove these leaves, then the fleshy food material, it is available to us. So here they are storing the food. In some plants such as Australian acacia, I have already told you that the leaves are very small and these are the short-lived leaves. And here the leaves are not performing the function of photosynthesis. Instead of leaves, here the petiole of the plant it expands it becomes green in color, it stores chlorophyll pigment and later do the function of photosynthesis. Next are sometimes the leaves in case of insectivorous plants. For example, pitcher plant which is known as Nepenthes. Venus flytrap is another example of insectivorous plant. So all of these plants, they have modified leaves. In particular, characteristic shapes, as in case of pitcher plant or Nepenthes, we have pitcher-like leaves, and these pitcher-like leaves, they confuse the insects that sit over the leaves, and in this way, these insects, they get trapped in the pitcher-shaped leaves, and later it is digested by the plants. So here they help the plant to capture their food in the form of insects. Okay, student, we will proceed with the next topic in fluorescence later on. So I am very much hopeful that whatever I have taught you, that is very much clear to you, and we will start in the next topic, that is dye fluorescence, in our next lecture. So here we have studied up to the modification of the leaves. So read your book regularly and send any doubt if you have. That's all in today's lecture. Have a nice day.